So when you work with a production music library, this is going to be a scenario that you'll likely run into in the future, if not already. It's actually been happening to many Sync Academy members over the last couple of weeks. So I figured this is going to be a great topic for a YouTube video. The issue is when you work with a production music library, essentially what you're usually going to be signing up for and saying yes to with your agreement with them is that you're assigning pretty much all the control over your music to them, meaning they can remix your music. They can maybe add a vocalist onto your track. They can mix your music, master it. They can edit it. They can release it with artwork that they feel is right. They can retitle track names. They can retitle the album. Pretty much anything that they think would help the album, the music, to become more licensable, more marketable, more accessible for their clients or useful. They usually, in all the agreements that you're going to sign with these companies, they'll have the absolute right to do that. So some members recently in Sync Academy have been talking about either an album being released with some kind of not so great looking artwork. One other member said that their track actually had been remixed. Of course, she didn't need to be giving them permission to do that, but she didn't really care for how the remix sounded. And on and on and on. There's been a variety of other issues like that. And I've had some of these things happen in my career too. And basically, there's essentially 2 points of view on this, and they are polar opposites. And I think you kind of have to come to the table with both of these points of view. So the first point of view is that if you have if your confidence in the library has been shaken as a result of something they've done, released your music with some kind of artwork, remixed your tracks, did anything to your music or to your data in a way that you feel like, I don't feel strong about that, I'm not certain about that, and I'm not really confident now that this library maybe knows what they're doing with my music. That's really important. And that's not something that you should just brush off and like, whatever, okay, I'll just move on. If your confidence has been shaken in the production music library that you're partnered with and you're counting on to build a relationship with and to obviously secure placements with, it's worth a conversation. Now, there's a certain way to go about that conversation. Of course, coming to them saying, this artwork is crap, or that remix sounds weird to me, you're coming at it critically, probably the wrong approach, okay? It's a better approach to come to them with some curiosity and try to really leave your judgments and your criticisms at the door. Come to them with a sort of, hey, I'm just curious about this new remix you put out. Mind if we jump on a call real quick? Or you just put it in the email. Is there a particular reason why this track needed to be remixed? Was there a particular request from a client? Or if you can just let me know a little bit about behind the scenes why some of these decisions are made. I'd love to learn more about how you guys operate and what's going on essentially with them. So again, you're not being critical, you're not second guessing them. You're saying, I'm just curious. I'm wanting to learn a little bit more about why some of the decisions are being made at your company, okay? If a library CEO or representative pushes you away or feels that you're being annoying or something like that by a question like that, maybe rethink your relationship with that company. Because I think all legit library CEOs that can give you the time of day, that really do value the composers and artists that they work with, are happy to answer questions, right? Especially if there's a little bit of a confusion or some curiosity about why they're doing certain things. Every library I've worked with that I've had multiple year relationships with always answer my questions, right? They've always been the ones to say, yeah, no problem. I can understand that might be confusing. Here's why we do that, right? Either a phone call, an email, Zoom call, text, however your mode of communication works with your library, okay? So that's the first point of view. Is it's definitely worth a conversation because you want to regain back that confidence. That's critical. Like if you expect to build, again, a long-term reliable relationship with a company, but your confidence is getting shaken by the decisions they're making, it's worth conversations. Communication usually resolves 99% of the issues that we are going to have in this business or any points of confusion, okay? So definitely that's part of it. The other point of view, again, is the polar opposite, which is to don't worry about it that much, and also trust that if you're working with a legitimate production music library and they've been in business for a while and they have a track record of securing placements, they probably know what they're doing, okay? So if they're releasing music a certain way, they're releasing it with certain artwork, they're titling things, they're mixing it, they're remixing it, they're adding vocalists, whatever they're doing, probably they're not doing that just randomly out of the blue just to switch things up. They're probably very aware of the pattern recognition of which tracks get placed. And they also, remember, they have more information than you and I have, right? They know what their clients have been asking for. They know the conversations that they've been having with their clients. You and I are not privy, we're not on those Zoom calls or those email threads, so we don't know specifically what's going on. And sometimes they let us in on that, and they let us know when there's a specific request or a brief that is great for us. But you also have to have this sense of detachment, right? It's, once the music is in their catalog, I remember Anthony Crawford, one of our success stories, who's shared his story here on the channel a few times. He shared this mentality of just once he releases that music and gives it off to the library that he's trusted, that he's got an agreement with, he basically mentally lets it go, and he's just moving on to the next project, the next album, the next thing that he wants to do. And he's not sitting there with his arms crossed, looking back over his shoulder, going, all right, well, what are you going to do with that music? And when is that coming out? And what decisions, his mentality is not there at all. And so I do have this other side of me that wants to say to a lot of members, and maybe some of you guys watching, that you really have to let go of this, one particular track or one particular project. There were some questionable decisions made on how it was released or mixed or whatever. If you plan on this being your career, one track, one album, that ain't going to be anything for your career, right? That's going to be a small drop in the bucket of the ocean of a catalog that you should be anticipating you're going to be producing, okay? So in the course of a year, if you're releasing 100, 200 tracks, somewhere in that range, hopefully that's kind of where you guys are getting to the point. Let's say 20 to 30 of them get mixed in a weird way, get remixed, get released with funky, weird titles, get kind of a weird, this idea that you think that every single track or every single album that you put out is going to be a home run winner and it has to be exactly perfectly right or exactly how you think it should be released. That's where this industry sort of separates people, because some people are just not comfortable with that lack of control. But that is the other point of view on this, is that you have to relinquish control. The ego knob has got to get turned down. The attachment to your music has got to get turned all the way down. You got to remember that any one of these tracks you put out could be a big, huge, amazing, but a lot of them probably won't get any placements at all. So, and you only have a limited number of bandwidth of things that you can worry and be concerned about and let drain you, right? So once it's in the library's catalog, if you've got confidence in them, and or at least enough to see what they're going to be able to do for you, let them do their job. Let them release it how they're going to release it. If you don't like how they release it, you don't like the schedule they release it, you don't like how they're treating your music, again, you're not tied to any of these companies for the rest of your life. They're not signing you as an artist. You're not locked in for years and years and years. You are a free agent, and you can A/B compare your way in this business, and you can decide who's producing better results for you and who are not, and decide if you want to continue working with them based on how they respond to your questions and your curiosity over these issues, and also just how they perform for you overall. So remember, nothing's set in stone. You're not married to anybody. You can obviously kind of pick and choose your own path in this industry. And chances are you will be at some point walking away from some production music library that you start a great relationship with. Just spoiler alert, that's just the nature of business. Sometimes interests align. Sometimes, people get distracted, or you're just not seeing the kind of results that you want, or your music isn't just the most in demand for them at some point. These things happen, and it's not the end of your career. It just might be the end of one particular relationship that you've basically established. Okay, so I hope this answers that question. And it's hard to give a definite answer of how you should approach or reply to these kinds of situations. But it's just important for me to let you guys know that these are real issues. These are real concerns, and you're valid to feel how you feel, right? It's a hard transition to make from not working in this industry to finally working in the industry, getting your music accepted by libraries, and seeing somebody else do things with our music. That is a weird thing to kind of get used to. Maybe if it's the first time that's ever happened to you, it's strange. And trust me, it's just kind of like putting your foot into a hot tub, essentially. It's a little uncomfortable immediately, but like hang with it a little bit longer and you'll kind of get used to it. It's not the end of the world. It's actually not that big of a deal. And in some cases, it's going to do you a big favor, because the decisions that a library is making on how to release your music, how to mix it, present it, likely is because they know more than we do. They know how to put your music in front of the right people to potentially increase your odds of getting placements. So it's one of those things, like, if you're with them, be with them. If you trust them, trust them. And obviously, not blindly, look at the results, compare it, see how they're doing, give them maybe a year, 2 at the most, to see if they're going to start producing some results for you. And if you don't like it, start looking elsewhere, start finding some other companies. So any other questions, comments, concerns on this topic, I'd love to hear from you guys. Please, as you always do, leave me those great comments below.